It's that time again, watering the plants. And as your collection gets bigger, the more you have to think about how are you going to meet those challenges or make them a bit easier for you. And in my case, it's something that I'm working on. So the first one to be that was watered is this philodendron Brazil. As you can see, there's new growth. It's coming out everywhere. There's another one here and here. And one way that I do my watering is I go through the hassle of bringing them all to the sink. And I let the lukewarm water from the tap go all the way through and pour out the bottom and the reservoir. I do that 2 or 3 times, and then I put in the bottled water that I make that has the dechlorinizer and a little bit of liquid feed. And I find when I do that, I can thoroughly saturate the whole mix, because there's 2 things that go on. Number one is that it's very hard to just water the plant hanging as it is right now, and if you do that, you probably won't saturate the whole mix. And number 2 is that because I use fertilizers and stuff like that, I really need to flush it out, and it's been working really great. The plant's much healthier, even though it's been in this pot for more than 4 years. Okay, this little guy here, well, won't be for long, is Ripsalis pilocarpa. And this one is growing in sphagnum moss. And I gave it a water. There's a little bit of water left over in this jar or glass. Actually, it's just a drinking glass that I bought. I haven't actually had a drink out of it at all. I just bought it to put my pilocarpa in. And it's in, peat moss. And I just want to say something about peat moss. Don't be afraid of using it. You may hear things about that your plants get root rot. You just let it dry, not 100%, and then I water it again. And if you use good water, like I've been saying, then you're going to have no problems whatsoever with your root system. The root system tends to die not from overwatering so much. It's got to do with poor water that might have a lot of chlorine in it. It might have a bad effect with those microorganisms. And another thing is that you've got to have plenty of bright light, and if you're unable to do that, you can install some grow lights, or even better yet, light bulbs, I think, tend to do a great job too. I just have fish tank light actually, and it's about an 8 watt, and even that will help to give enough light for your Ripsalis. However, it doesn't like really direct. So this one's growing really well, and it's watered. And last week I did give it a water, and I filled this whole glass with water and let it soak it, and I tipped it out and gave it an additional water. Okay, right next to it, doesn't need a water today. This is my Angraecum disticum, which is native to a lot of countries actually in Africa, all through the central part of Africa, all the way to the west, all the way to the east, all the way down into the southern countries of Africa. It's very, very widespread. And this one has a nice moist sphagnum moss. Of course, when you buy sphagnum moss, as you know, it's not alive at all. And the green that you see there is actually spores that have started to grow again. So this one likes to be kept not soaking wet, but definitely not too dry either. And as it approaches dryness, which it is now, I'll give it another good water over the sink. And as you can see, there's some nice new growth coming away. Being an orchid, they are renowned for their mysteriousness as part of the culture, because they can tend to be something that people don't want to invest any time in. Maybe they're scared of them. Maybe they think that they're not going to do too well. But I think number one is having a good water. And I do use dolomite lime, as I've said before. You can catch that on my other videos. And number two is that you have nice lighting and you have some airflow. Okay, even though it's not particularly warm today in this room here, it's about 20 degrees, and it hasn't been 20 degrees for quite a few weeks. Over here we have the oscillating fan that works every other day. I don't turn it off, only at night, because plants need airflow. Okay, next up I'm just going to take this one down. Okay, I just gave this Hoya Carnosa Hindu rope a good watering. All of this growth here was started growing last year, and in the winter it slows down its growth. However, I don't stop watering, and the reason why I don't stop watering is because tropical plants, they may come from seasonally dry climates, which means they might have 4 to 5 months of the year where they call it dry. That means that there would be light sprinkles of shower, but however, because it's a tropical plant, the climate tends to stay quite warm and it doesn't get that cold. But here in my climate, it does get cold in winter. So I just do what I can. I put this net up to give it a little more warmth because it's close to the window. Number two is that it's inside, of course. Temperature may get down to about 10 degrees, which is pushing it a little bit. But the reason why I don't stop watering is because all plants that are tropical, if you let them dry out too much, they lose their root system. And once they lose that, they're in even bigger, dire trouble. Okay, so that's the reason why I keep watering. And to make sure that you don't waterlog your plants, that's why a lot of us growers, we have cache pots. And you can see inside this cache pot that it's got large pieces of pumice down there, if I can focus. And that pumice down there is to catch any extra water that I might not have been able to tip out, and it'll soak it up and it'll dissipate or transpirate. And the pot is inside this pot, and I gave it a good water over the sink, filled it right up with water, let it soak for a good 20 seconds, and I drained it out and I gave it some good water. So this plant will not rot, never had rot issues whatsoever. That's the great thing about cache pots. Just going to put this one back right, and you can see here that this Hoya Carnosa compactor is back in its home, hanging up here. These leaves tend to get a little reddish tinge on them. However, there's nothing to panic about. But this plant overall is very, very healthy. I haven't repotted it, and I'm thinking that I will, but I won't disturb the root system. I will just slip it out of its pot and put it into a slightly bigger one. And I'll probably use a little akadama with a little perlite, because I find that that's a good growing medium. Keeps a little moisture. But this plant hasn't been repotted, and I bought it 7 years ago. So that's quite a long time ago, isn't it? And it has peduncles and everything on it. You can see here, it's got some very, very large peduncles. This is a nice happy plant growing in my collection. Don't think I've ever shown this, and if I have, I've forgotten. But let's have a look inside. You can see some nice moss growing in there. And the plant that's planted in here are actually cuttings off a very easy to grow, as you know, Peperomia Hope. I still have on my wish list another peperomia that's very hardy, that has orbicular leaves, or very, very round. Yeah, this one's been growing in the sphagnum moss in this cup. It's actually a giveaway. I wanted to give it away to somebody that loves plants, and I didn't want to throw away these cuttings, so I did put them into the sphagnum moss, and it's been growing in there happily. And I give it some water every now and then. You can see it's got a little bit of water in the bottom. But this just goes to show you that sphagnum moss is fine, and your plants can grow in it if you give them good water, that is. I am here to share my secrets with you, which may help you along with your plants. I don't know if you can remember, but this Ripsalis here actually had spider mites on it. And they weren't the predatory ones, because those ones are actually pretty big and quite visual, quite easy to see. But these were the typical spider mites, and they were starting to colonize all over this, especially underneath the leaves. And as I said I was going to do before, you can just see a little bit left in the pot, if I can get in there. You can see the remnants of dolomite lime. You can just see a little bit on the surface of the soil. If I can focus, it's going in and out, but you can kind of make it out in there. I got a half a teaspoon, I sprinkled it in there, and voila. Spider mites don't like dolomite lime. You should check into it before using it. But I have no fear of using dolomite lime. In actual fact, it's a source of magnesium and calcium. When you read into it, you'll hear that it's for lawns. And then if you overdo it, you can actually kill your lawn. But dolomite lime is a source of minerals that actually come from limestone, and a lot of these plants have a relationship with that in their natural habitat. They can come from areas that have quite a lot of limestone cliffs, ridges, mountains and rocks, where they all grow and sprawl all over them. And another good thing is that it gets rid of the spider mites, because spider mites like something that's more acidic. They like something that's more like 5 or 5.5 and or lower. They actually like acidic, and dolomite lime makes things a happy neutral, or it can make it a little bit more alkaline, which they kind of don't like. Also, it sticks to there as a powder form when you put it in the pot, and you don't have to put it all over the leaves, from my experience, but that powder will suffocate them, and it's just something that they just don't like at all. They have a bad distaste to it once the plant starts to absorb it into its system. And plants need these minerals so that they can fight off diseases and oncoming predators. And it's kind of like you and I. You know, that old saying goes that you can either eat food to survive, or you can eat medicine. And this goes to show you that if you really study and get into your plants a little bit more, you can actually find natural things that do a good job. So this is nice and healthy now. Spider mites are gone. They didn't like it because the dolomite lime has given the plant a boost of calcium, magnesium, hardened those cells, strengthen the walls of the plant, make it hard to penetrate, and they have a dislike for it because they love nothing more than a plant that's in absolute stress, and usually that's when it's starting to go acidic. Next growing tip, these are sticky traps that I've cut smaller. I saw one or two fungus gnats. Fungus gnats are very bad in the way that if you let them get out of hand and breed enough, their little maggots love to eat the root system of your plants. So you can see here, this is a nice kind of epiphyllum. It's a very common one, a rick-rack cactus. It has beautiful white blooms, and this one I saw a scarier fly flying around. I've seen one or two. I don't have a plague of them. I just saw one or two, and I don't hesitate to cut some sticky traps and replace any ones that might be getting a bit old. It's a habit that I've gotten into, and if you keep this habit of putting sticky traps in, at least one in every plant, you won't ever have any problems with fungus gnats. I saw something really neat with this bulbophyllum frosty eye. Let's have a look in here. You can see right in there that frosty eye has new growths. It's got one. It's got two. So I'm pointing at them right now. It's got two new growths. It's got some nice moss growing in there. It's got some other plants growing in there too. I just wondered if they're Tillandsias or something else, who knows. I even saw this plant growing in there. Okay, so orchid tips. Once you do pot your orchid, try not to ever repot them, no matter how root bound they are. The more root bound they get, the happier the plant is. These plants maintain their survival by their root system. If they don't have a good root system, they're not going to grow, because if they try to do that, they'll exhaust themselves and die. So orchids have that tendency more than other plants to establish a very, very good root system. So when you play around with it or mess with it, you're going to send the plant backwards. Could take a year or two for it to even start to recover. So once it does get a nice established orchid in your pot, the best thing to do is, if it starts to creep out of your pot, take cuttings off it and propagate those, and leave your main plant alone, no matter how root bound it gets. Okay, I'm going to put this one back right up in its sunny spot. Okay, you can see bulbophyllum frosty eye up here. And if this gets a little bit too hot, which it isn't now, and I can always put up some thin cotton like this to keep it cool. If you hang around to the end, you get to see two plants that I purchased. Okay, I'll let you have a look. It doesn't look like much for now. It's a little dehydrated when I bought it. This is the Hoya carrii variegated. They're actually available on my go-to shopping website here in Japan. and I've been putting off buying one. Then I saw this one in the nursery, and I had the itchy fingers and I had to grab it. Although it was pretty dry in the leaves are starting to fill out again, and I just gave it a water, gave it some fertilizer too, because Hoyas are pretty big feeders. Also gave it some dolomite lime, but beware at your own risk. I haven't had any trouble. I've had nothing but good things with dolomite lime. These leaves are pretty limp, and now they're stiffening up. I just see nothing but improvement when I do use it. All it has to do now is start growing from these nodes here. Of course, that stem doesn't have any leaves on it, but that's fine. Overall, it's a healthy plant, and it does have this hanging up around it, because we're still in the middle of the spring trying to come through. And plus, this plant was pretty dry when I bought it, and it needs a chance to just be warm but not too stressed with too much sun, and just to fatten up its leaves again, get some nutrients into it. Later on I might remove this and put it up a bit higher, actually, to block the sun, to make it a bit more dappled, kind of like that. Anyway, that's my new purchase, Hoya carrii variegated, and this is really good for beginner growers. If you're it only requires a well-draining potting mix, and preferably a cache pot or a self-waterer. Although they don't recommend leaving water in the bottom, not with this one. This one's much more of a succulent type. But water it as it's approaching dryness. Whatever you do, don't let it go bone dry for weeks on end. They come from the tropics of Asia, so Thailand and countries like that. So I could have bought a much bigger, healthier plant, but part of growing plants is to get a smaller one and to grow it on yourself. And if you want something instant, then that is also for people who want that too. So either way, whatever makes you happy in the hobby. Hey, one other orchid I purchased is Oinelia polystachys. It's hard to get your tongue around. Oinelia polystachys, and you can see here that it came with this flower spike, although this is a prolific bloomer, so it can bloom all through spring, summer, and through the autumn. It is native to Madagascar, northwest. I think it's the northwest, and it grows pretty close to the coast, where it receives quite a lot of humidity. These plants can get quite large. I don't mean the leaf size, but I mean the overall size of the plant. It'll sprawl out and wrap around trees. So it loves humidity, it likes moisture too. This one's growing in sphagnum moss. I'm not going to move it. I'm going to leave it there. Things can grow in sphagnum moss, no problem. Just don't forget that you shouldn't fill the whole pot with sphagnum moss. You should have a nice cavity in the bottom, or a big open air space to let the air move around. Otherwise you can put styrofoam chips in the bottom, but if you don't like that idea at all, just have the bottom portion of the pot empty, so air can go up inside and around those roots. And this one has beautiful small flowers. They have a labellum that's almost like half a tubular, kind of like a spathe, that wraps around the spadix of a lily, if you can imagine that. And it's kind of pale green with white petals, and the sepals are pale green, or is it the other way around? But it's supposed to be fragrant, lovely fragrance too, and looking forward to this flowering. And I'm going to grow it indoors, because in here it's just the equivalent of growing it in a warm greenhouse inside here, and I'm sure it'll do well. Looking forward to it. I recommend growing this orchid if you want something that flowers a lot, rather than a orchid that will only flower during one season. Okay, the big surprise. Finally did it. And here it is here. Tillandsia xerographica, which is native to Honduras, southern Mexico, and Belize, possibly. It grows actually in dry forests. So when I observed this particular Tillandsia in habitat, it seems that there's not a lot of moss growing on those branches. It's more lichen. So this one likes a lot of bright light, not direct sun, but dappled. It has a very nice healthy leaves there. I put it in this basket, this cheap basket, and I have nylon string going up to a loop. So this is one of the largest ones, and finally I bought one. I've been at the nursery, I've been looking at them, been putting it off. I find that the price that I bought it for, it seems to be that price usually anywhere. And for such a large plant, and knowing that it's not a very fast grower, the price is right. I paid $30 for it. And being a Tillandsia that has a lot of these trichomes, which gives it that silver look, I'm going to give it a good thorough watering, make sure that I tip out any excess water in the center, make sure that I put a little dolomite lime in there, because I'm pretty sure it's a kind of a plant that appreciates a little bit. Tiny bit of feed every time. The dechlorinizer in the water, and hang it up to dry again. So I was pleased to get one. Xerographica. And Tillandsias, if you don't already know already, they flower only once. They're beautiful flowers, and mummy plant will be consumed a little bit over time. Her energy will go into her babies, and she'll have babies all around the bottom of the plant. It can have up to 3 to 4 offsets, and mummy plant will slowly be consumed, and the energy will go into the babies. So it's not really, I mean, people, you know, you can say that that it dies, but actually it rejuvenates and puts its energy into other parts of the plant, which is almost what other plants tend to do anyway. They just do it through their leaves. When they want to put on more growth, they will lose some leaves in the process. It's kind of the same thing. So once it does flower and it has babies, it's something to look forward to, and plenty more to share around with people who love the hobby. Sunrise. Look at that nice new growth. 1, 2, 3. Starting to grow here. This one is very pot bound. I'm never going to repot it. Doesn't need it. It's an epiphyte. If I need new plants, I'll take cuttings. I'm going to show you quickly the watering schedule I have. And a lot of you may think, well, A lot of you may think, oh my gosh, you go through all this. Well, what else would I be doing? What else would I be doing? This is fine. There's no problem doing this with your plants at all. This is part of the enjoyment. I'm just trying to get this set up a bit better. Wait a minute. I'm gonna water it in here, right, with the tap water to thoroughly soak everything, since the plant is in this particular one is in bark and pumice, so it needs a good soak first. And not only am I doing that, I am flushing out any salts that build up, because unfortunately fertilizers build up salts and they accumulate on the surface of the pot, and you don't want that. Causes the medium to get acidic. That's where dolomite lime comes in. It not only provides your plant with magnesium and calcium and some extra minerals like that, but it also keeps the happy microbes happy and keeps your plant growing perfect. However, I won't be using any dolomite lime today. Already has some left over. Yep, I just tipped it like that. I was talking while I had this hook in my mouth. So unfortunately I don't have 3 arms, but I wish I did. And this is the good water going in. Once you get in the habit, it's not so much of a problem to do this. And it has a cache pot for a number of reasons. Keep humidity around the roots, not necessarily because I want to keep water in the bottom, but also the cache pot just stops it dripping on the floor too. Humidity, that's a must. Loves humidity around the roots. Yep. Okay, that one is done. I'm going to hang it up on this hook up here. Here you can see the plants hanging up. It's kind of got quite a lot of growth on one side, more than on the other. Just got to dry off a little bit of the water. Otherwise I just shake it off. This plant is Hoya Sunrise, if I didn't already say so. I purchased this plant about 5 or 6 years ago. It's been years, and this plant has been potted up once. I actually made a terrible mistake, and we had a very humid, wet, cool summer, and I made the mistake of leaving water in the reservoir, and the plant didn't want to drink it at the time. It kind of went, it did its thing, it flowered, it grew, it just wanted to be a little bit dormant, and I was too slow to, or too lazy to take it down and check inside it. But I soon learned that when you had changes in temperature, now I don't mean don't water your plant, I mean, having it sitting in excess water when it just doesn't want or need it. However, I still do water all through the year because I don't want the roots to dry out. It makes it unhealthy. But having it sitting in the water like I did, it was sitting in water for well over a week, and it's too long for this particular Hoya anyway. Hoya Bella is a different case. Those thin-leaved Hoyas, they tend to love the extra water all the time. This one has got thicker leaves, so it likes to have its moisture, likes to have it to drain away any excess. That's how it likes to live. And check out these leaves while we're here. This Hoya gets these lovely red leaves, even with some bright light from a window. But the window I have it hanging in is south facing, and here in the northern hemisphere that means it's the brightest location. It's got a nice peduncle there. It looks like it's starting to get a little bit activated. You can see the little buds starting to come out of it. So this one has slow release fertilizer in it as well, because they are feeders. I notice that if I do that every 3 months, I put in some slow release, the plant is much healthier than just stopping fertilizing altogether. I notice that it'll start dropping leaves, and that seems to be a clear case that it needs fertilizer, because when I check the pot and everything and the plant has drunk its water and it's starting to dry out and it's dropping leaves, it's a fertilizer issue. So there we are, Hoya Sunrise. Maybe you're curious to know what I'm talking about. My water, this is 2-liter bottle of tap water. In it has chlorine or chloramide, which is something that us human beings need in our water pipes, because it stops algae and mold and stuff and that from growing in the pipes. It also stops bacteria, which is harmful for us, makes us sick, and so they add it to the water. But plants, however, don't really like it. It irritates their root system. It puts the pH out of balance, which is harmful for the roots. And not only that, the nice microbial life that you have in your pot starts to die away too, which can make it look like that you're overwatering your plants when you're actually not, because it's natural for plants to get water when they're approaching dryness. Doesn't make sense to water a plant and it doesn't want to take it up. So this is fish tank dechlorinizer, and in we go. In this nice squirty bottle that I bought, I'm going to give it 2 or 3 drops. A little, if you put a little bit more than that, it won't hurt at all. And we've got this fertilizer, actually has magnesium and calcium in it. I'm going to put 2 drops of that in 2 liters. I find that's just right. The plants are doing really well. Plus they have the granulated stuff too. And in here is dolomite lime, and it's a tablespoon in a 250 ml squirty bottle. And if you want them to get that calcium, you give it a couple of squirts. 1, 2, like that. Then you're not overdoing it with the dolomite lime. What's the worst that will happen when you do this? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Nothing bad will eventuate from doing this with your water. Number two is it can only do good stuff, because we're trying to imitate Mother Nature here the best way that we can. So that is a bottle of the good stuff water. I'm going to take this one over that's getting a little on the green side. That's just because the sunlight has been reaching it, that's all. Yeah, we're going to continue on with the watering job. I switched on the light for this one. This is Hoya Matilde, and it has this new runner. It has this one. It has this and this. This one popping up here. Another one there. And another one here. Get it to focus. So it is. There's another one right there too. If I was to take this plant out of this pot, and you would see how root bound it is. Even has a peduncle. Yeah, as I was saying, if I was to take it out of this pot, this thing would be an absolute ball of roots. But watering it like I have been with the water, happy plants put out happy growth. I noticed something about Matilde, and that is if I try to push this up and train it around the hoop, it'll just start dying back again. So I've learned not to touch it, just let it do its own thing. And yep, this plant hasn't been repotted for many years, 4 or 5 years now. So it's doing really well, and I do give it some additional slow release fertilizer because it shows it through yellowing of leaves and dropping them off, if that isn't overwatering. It does have the cache pot here. It's on a terracotta, and the terracotta pot actually only comes down to about here, but there's a little bit of humidity remaining in the bottom, which the plant really loves, because it doesn't like to dry out totally, not bone dry, and it doesn't like to be swimming in water either. The Carnosa, on the other hand, kind of likes that, likes to have water in its reservoir, but not Matilde. So look at this. It's actually never looked better. Last year it wasn't looking so good, but the evidence is in the pudding. You can see here that this plant is starting to put out some really good growth, thanks to my watering practice and making sure that their pH is right. Even though I don't have a pH meter, my pH meter is my nose. You can smell it. You can smell when your soil is off. And I'm going to put this one back in its sunny window. Won't be a minute.
guess you're really good at saying what you mean. Suppress my feelings, 'cause I know what's best for me. Feel short of confidence, my hands begin to shake. I thought I knew you, but I barely knew your name. Porcelain stuck to your teeth, you got everything, and I can't believe how I've been let down again and again and again. And I'm paranoid, what's under my skin. I got careless eyes to let you back in. Why do I do this again and again and again? Porcelain stuck to your teeth, you got porcelain under your skin, and I'm all for it again.
Oh, all done, everything back. Let's have a little view here. Oh, this is my repotted Hoya Bella. It's hanging in a shadier spot, which is ideal for it. It used to hang up over there in that sunny window. It's a little bit too much for it. Tillandsia usinoides. Other Tillandsias here, hanging up. Nice basket of Tillandsias. Some mounted on wood, one on a wreath. Another usinoides. We have this Phalaenopsis jumbo. There's this flower spike, nice new leaf growing. These cotton cloths so to protect them from a little bit more cold, from a little cold now and then. All the plants are back. Got some more Tillandsias, and Tillandsias are great because they make everything look like a jungle, and they fill in spaces. This one will be going back outside later. We have the Nepenthes hanging right down there, and this long cord that goes all the way up to the hanger. Alright, so watering and taking care of these plants is all done for today. We will continue to have warm weather. From next week we'll be going right back down to almost snowing. It'll be that cold. That's the transition that we have here in Japan from the end of winter going into spring. And thanks for watching. And if you have hung around all the way to the end, thanks again. I hope you found this interesting. All of these are watered during the week, so they don't need any right now. And if you think this would help out any of your friends who are indoor growers like myself, then share this video. And if you are new to my channel, then thanks for subscribing and coming along. Everything I do here is about sharing plants and getting better at the hobby and enjoying it, because that's why we do it. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll answer them for you the best that I can. And if you have any growing tips yourself for me, let me know. And until next time, I'll see you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.